Dean Forbes, Regent Anderson, members of the College of Biological Sciences, distinguished graduates of the class of 2019, friends, guests, family, it's an honor to acknowledge today that the land on which we are celebrating today is Dakota land. The first inhabitants of what we now call Minnesota taught their own ways of knowing here long before this university existed. And some of our Dakota relatives are here celebrating tonight. Waksape, Wakiksuye, Waia'ake. Wisdom, knowledge, observation. Dakota values run parallel to the values of this land-grant university. And it's true that the federal government granted part of this land of 10,000 lakes to support us. But let's not forget that we owe Minnesota, meaning sky-tinted water, to Native people. Now, some of you began your journey with this college at Itasca, the headwaters of the Mississippi. Did you know that this great river's source remained a mystery to non-native explorers until its location was revealed by an Ojibwe man named Ozawindib? We're here to celebrate your journey tonight and your accomplishments, so why am I bringing up old history? Can't I just get on with it? After all, we're here to party, right? So graduates, this may be the last time some of you a professor begs for your attention, so please cut me a little slack. A few of my German ancestors settled in the Minnesota River Valley. They fought in the Dakota War of 1853 and succeeded in driving a people they didn't understand away from fertile land that they went on to farm. And they made a good enough living to send their children to an outstanding, and if I may say so, pricey university. Parents and sponsors, you know what I'm talking about. My grandfather, class of 1922, was into drama here. In theater, he met a young African American, and at that time, entertainment was one of the few professions available to talented black men. You might even recognize that man's name, Roy Wilkins, the civil rights leader who's honored by a residence hall on campus, a center for social justice, and an auditorium in downtown St. Paul. My grandpa was a friend of Roy Wilkins, but they couldn't share a dorm or an apartment or eat together. The university was a segregated place at that time. Fast forward to 2019. You've scrambled late for class across that same campus, crammed for exams in the same chemistry building, and grabbed lunch in the same student union. Much has changed around here, but much has remained the same. And some of you were part of the recent effort bringing to light the need for more change on this campus, including the names of some of our historic buildings. It turns out that you and your professors see things rather differently than some of the college campus leaders. And it's disappointing to me that our Board of Regents isn't yet ready for the future that you have brought into focus. Hey, but maybe one day the names of these buildings will honor your success. I hope so, and I have no doubt that all of you will go on to accomplish a great deal more worth acknowledging at future graduations. But I have a confession to make. It's not my first commencement speech. A couple of years ago, I spoke at a small rural school in the middle of the jungle in the Pacific island of New Guinea. Sitting as you are, I never could have imagined that one day I'd be addressing a graduating class of indigenous kids whose grandparents were semi-nomadic hunter-gatherers until my team of scientists turned up to investigate the ecology of their rainforest. Participating commencement tonight is different, and it's hard to compare with New Guinea. A while back in the rainforest, I was invited to celebrate the first graduating class of 8th graders. Those 8th graders were, by our standards, the most highly educated people ever to emerge from their district. Just one problem with that ceremony, nobody bothered to tell me ahead of time that I'd be giving the graduation speech. I looked down at the program on the stage for the first time and freaked out. So thank you, CBS, for giving me a bit more time to prepare tonight. On graduating from college, I figured biology was in my future, but I never expected to become a professor who divides his time between Minnesota and a remote island in the Pacific. Now, I was fortunate to have the opportunity to travel abroad straight after graduation. 8 countries in a year completely changed my outlook. I realized there are countless opportunities everywhere if you're curious, open-minded, and willing to take risks. In my case, it was an obsession with naming exotic plants that led me to unfamiliar places and ultimately connected me back to a career at home with a much greater appreciation for my own backyard. Now back to you, students of CBS. This has been a great place for you to develop your critical thinking, and it's taught you that some of the biggest questions about life are still out there unanswered. As a student, there's a lot of pressure to have a plan and be pointed in some direction, but that's just not fair. Nobody can predict the future, especially now that society and the environment are changing faster than ever before in human history. I wish I'd known that it was okay to wander, suddenly change course, or simply wait for opportunities that feel right, because that's what I ended up doing for 2 years before I resumed my formal education. And maybe college was trying to teach me this, but I probably wasn't paying attention at the time, and you may not be right now either. But just try to imagine where you'll be in 25 years. What an amazing time to pursue new frontiers. Emerging technology, limitless data, are changing what biologists do and how we think. Artificial intelligence, virtual reality, gene editing, environmental health, climate change, sustainable bioeconomies, bioethics, and the neuroscience of human consciousness itself, just to name a few. Now, some of these issues are going to benefit from micromolecular discoveries at the bench, but many won't. So go wherever they take you. You know, we live in challenging times. Science is misunderstood, poorly communicated, put to bad use, even by those with the benefit of an education who should know better. Arrogance and ignorance are everywhere. Many in our society today question the very knowledge of life that you and your professors have gathered through careful research based on solid evidence. Why is that? Is it resentment of your privilege? Fear of your status? Cynicism of your motives? Conspiracy theories, xenophobia, nostalgia, or the marketing of doubt by greedy corporate media? Is it the instantaneous availability of all information, however inaccurate? Truth, according to Wikipedia, fake news, and Twitter? You graduates of CBS are going to create the biology of tomorrow, but don't just do good science. Be good people, because science alone isn't going to solve our problems. Let's seek out those who disagree among us. Maybe we should listen to them before pointing out why they're wrong. Chances are they know something we don't. They may have a different perspective, one that isn't fundamentally biological or even scientific, but one that might actually be helpful in understanding an issue better. Let me give you an example. Some of my collaborators in New Guinea practice sorcery as medicine. And this might sound crazy, but the last time I checked, more Americans still believe in witches than accept evolution as the ultimate source of biodiversity. Anyway, my research team had this grant to seek out new antibiotics among the microbes inhabiting the New Guinea forest. And we were super excited to discover a molecule that's highly effective against tuberculosis. But I was dumbstruck when I presented our findings to a tribal leader. He just said, duh. Every witch doctor around here knows how to expel evil coughing from one's chest using what lives in our forest. So science is how we know in this college, but it's important to remember that it isn't the only way of knowing. And let's remember that science is a human endeavor. You know this because CBS has taught you that biology isn't just about something you read in a textbook. Through your projects, you've learned that biology is more about what we don't know. You've heard it said that the circle of knowledge expands, and so does the circumference of our ignorance. So keep on learning and keep on trying to break out beyond the edge of what you think you understand. Thanks to those who have come before you and those in power today, we're facing a planetary crisis, and you know it. More than 10,000 scientists recently published our second warning to humanity after our first was ignored 25 years ago. Several of your professors contributed to an intergovernmental report on biodiversity and ecosystem services that was released just last month. They point out that our incredible success has transformed the human species into a force of nature as powerful as any on the planet. We've harnessed so much of the land and the water and life to support our own prosperity that the very systems responsible for our success are strained to the breaking point. So what are you going to do about it? Looking for answers, maybe you can just think back to why you wanted to study biology in the first place. Because nature offers so many ingenious solutions to problems. If only we could model our own activities and engineer our future around what sustains all life, not just ourselves. Natural ecosystems do it well. Are we smart enough to stop borrowing resources from the future and turn our economy into one that eventually prefers renewable energy and recycles all waste? Let me just leave you with 3 essential lessons from nature. And you know them already. I'm just asking you to reflect on them. One thing we recognize in nature is that diversity is strength. Here in Minnesota, we're a global giant leading the production of a small number of commodity crops. And plant breeding here at the U helped advance the agriculture to the point where we're feeding the world. And yet, our very own Cedar Creek Ecosystem Science Reserve experiments have shown us that diverse prairie plant communities are even more productive. Those diverse communities are actually built the rich, healthy soils upon which our agricultural economy depends. Instead of building barriers between our society and nature, or fences between economy and environment, we ought to accommodate natural diversity in all its forms as we engineer our way into the future. But don't get me wrong, we'll still need pipelines and minerals to get there. We'll also need to bridge the divisions that threaten humanity. I'm talking about extreme disparities of urban wealth and rural poverty, of privileged races and the disenfranchised, of uncompromising politicians, of healthy nations and awfully sick ones. More diverse societies thrive just as more diverse ecosystems do. So let's take care of the planet as we take care of each other. Another lesson we can learn from nature is to live within our limits. You know, here in America, we enjoy tremendous freedom to use resources as we please. However, as Benjamin Franklin said, we know the worth of water when the well runs dry. And most of us prefer those limitations that don't apply to ourselves but to other people. Well, even selfish people have to face the fact that resources are finite and we're not using them as we should. The good news is this: as students of biology, you know of species ingenious enough to dedicate more of their resources and engineer more suitable habitats for their descendants than they inherited from their parents. Those are the species with a future, and we can learn from them. Now, I've held you far long enough, so I'll make one last point in closing, which is a third lesson from nature, actually related very much to this occasion of your graduating from college. You're now experiencing one of the greatest transitions of your entire life, and everything is about to change, and change is inevitable, but you're prepared. You've succeeded here at the U. Just look at all you've accomplished. Your ability to adjust and change improved here in college, and it's what's going to carry you forward to new opportunities and whatever challenges lie ahead. Life evolved billions of years ago in an atmosphere without oxygen to produce the very air we breathe today. Now, that our climate is changing faster than it has in the past few million years is alarming, but I'm optimistic for 2 reasons. Life has this amazing ability to adapt, to change, and so do you. So go forth and change for good. Congratulations to you, the graduates of the class of 2019. Be kind, be safe, and most of all, be yourselves. Thank you.